You believe your emotions make you human. You think your attachments give life meaning. But I tell you, they are the chains you polish and call freedom. Look closely at the powerful and the fallen. Their difference lies not in strength, but in control. A man ruled by attachment is a servant dressed as a king. He appears commanding, yet his every move is dictated by fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being unseen. You may believe love, loyalty, or desire are virtues. But to the strategist, they are liabilities, predictable triggers that reveal your weakness before you even speak. Attachment turns emotion into a weapon, not in your hand, but in another's. Consider Caesar. He conquered nations, but it was his attachment to reputation that lured him into arrogance. He ignored the daggers forming behind his back because he could not detach from admiration. He needed it. And need is fatal. You see, the moment you need something external, a person, a title, an image, you hand over the strings of your mind. Whoever controls what you crave, controls you. This is not philosophy. It is psychology. The brain binds itself to what it believes will bring reward or relief. The lover craves attention. The ambitious man craves acknowledgement. The insecure crave validation. Every attachment becomes a leash, invisible yet absolute. And the irony: the more you cling, the more fragile your control becomes. Attachment transforms into anxiety. The constant dread of losing what you worship. That fear shapes your choices, corrupts your reasoning, and blinds your judgment. The mind that was once sharp becomes dull under the weight of emotion. History repeats this lesson. Kings destroyed empires for mistresses. Generals lost wars for pride. Advisors betrayed masters for fleeting glory. And all of it, every downfall, began not with hatred, but with attachment. But detachment does not mean coldness. It means clarity. It means seeing emotion as a servant, not a master. To detach is not to stop feeling. It is to stop obeying your feelings. Ask yourself, when was the last time you made a decision without fear or craving? Without the whisper of, "What if?" in your mind? If your answer hesitates, you are already bound. Look at the merchant who risks all for a deal he cannot lose. His heart races, his mind clouds. He overpays, desperate to secure it. The opponent, calm and observant, senses his attachment and tightens the noose. In this dance, power belongs not to the one who desires victory most, but to the one who can walk away. To rule, you must master the art of walking away. Not from people, but from dependence. When others sense you do not need, they chase your approval. When they sense you cannot be provoked, they fear your silence. Power, in its purest form, is indifference wrapped in presence. Think of relationships, personal or political. The one who loves more loses. The one who fears loss submits. The one who remains poised while the other trembles becomes the invisible ruler. In every bond, someone holds the emotional advantage, and it is never the one most attached. The ancients understood this well. The Stoics trained their minds to desire nothing they could not control. Their freedom was internal, unshakable. To them, detachment was not withdrawal, but dominion. The prince who cannot detach from pleasure will be ruled by those who supply it. The ruler who cannot detach from praise will bend to those who flatter him. The citizen who cannot detach from comfort will kneel to anyone promising safety. You must become the observer, the one who feels yet does not flinch, who sees emotion rise and lets it pass like smoke. When anger burns, study it. When desire stirs, measure it. When fear whispers, listen, but never obey. For every emotion is a visitor testing your resolve. If you welcome them as masters, they will build their throne in your mind. But if you greet them as guests, they will leave when their purpose ends. The first act of liberation is not rebellion against others. It is rebellion against your own attachments. Detach not because you wish to escape life, but because you wish to command it. Detach not to feel less, but to see more. In a world where everyone clings, the detached stand above the storm. They move with purpose, not panic. They are courted by opportunity, not hunted by it. And when all others crumble at the thought of loss, they remain still, silent, untouchable, feared. For those who master detachment do not chase fortune, They make fortune chase them. Now, let us move deeper into the illusion of control and why only the unbothered ever truly command it. You believe control comes from effort, that if you plan, chase, and push hard enough, the world will bend to your will. But effort is not power, it is exposure. The more desperately you try to control something, the more you reveal how little control you truly have. The wise learn early. Power does not come from grasping, but from gravity. The unbothered man, the calm strategist, commands not through force but through presence. He does not shout. He does not rush. He lets others reveal their impatience, and then he rules through their reactions. Look at history. Alexander conquered half the known world before the age of 30. But what conquered him? His own illusion of control. When the world refused to obey his pace, he drank himself to death, unable to detach from the belief that his will could defy nature itself. The moment he lost composure, he lost the throne, not to rivals, but to chaos born from his own unrest. You must understand this. Control is an illusion sold to the insecure. The frantic hand that tries to shape everything is the first to be cut. True power belongs to the one who influences the rhythm of others while appearing untouched by it. Think of how storms move. They do not ask for permission. They do not hurry. They exist in perfect indifference, and that indifference terrifies the weak. The same principle governs power among men. The man who appears unaffected gains authority because others project control onto him. In politics, in business, in love, composure creates the illusion of command, and illusion, in human affairs, is often stronger than truth. You see this every day. A leader who panics loses his followers. A negotiator who reveals urgency loses the deal. A lover who shows desperation loses attraction. Control is not the tightening of the fist. It is the ability to keep it relaxed when every instinct tells you to clench. Let me tell you a secret the ambitious never wish to hear. The world obeys those who can wait. Impatience is the confession of weakness. When you rush, you admit dependence on outcomes you do not yet control. When you remain still, you make others uneasy. Your calm becomes their chaos. Consider a general on the battlefield. His soldiers look to him not for orders alone, but for confidence. If he trembles, the army collapses. If he stands silent even under threat, his calm infects the ranks. The illusion of control becomes reality through belief, and belief is the most powerful weapon in any kingdom or mind. Now, look inward. How much of your suffering comes not from reality, but from your inability to control it? You try to manage every outcome, every word, every emotion. And in doing so, you imprison yourself. The more you demand certainty, the more uncertain you feel. The tighter your grip, the faster things slip through your fingers. You become the architect of your own torment. The unbothered man does the opposite. He acts strategically, but never anxiously. He knows outcomes are unpredictable, yet he moves as if they are inevitable. His calm is not ignorance. It is weaponized acceptance. He plays the game of control by refusing to be controlled by it. In the court of Florence, those who rose high did so not because they commanded others directly, but because they mastered restraint. They never revealed need. They let others believe their favor was difficult to earn. Scarcity became their armor. Distance became their authority. And all the while, those desperate for approval circled like moths around a flame that never flickered. This is how the illusion of control becomes a source of actual control. When others believe you are above the struggle they drown in. Composure, patience, and silence are not signs of passivity, they are the instruments of dominance. Ask yourself, when did you last allow the world to come to you? When did you last refuse to chase, and instead let your absence create demand? If you cannot remember, then you have been ruled by illusion, not strategy. Detach from the obsession to manage outcomes. Influence flows from stillness. Manipulation works best when you appear immune to its need. People submit not to those who control them, but to those who controls themselves. And when the world senses you no longer crave control, it offers itself to you. Willingly, almost fearfully. Because in your calm, it finds its own reflection of chaos. And chaos always yields to composure, for the true ruler does not tighten his grip. He simply stands still and watches as the frantic world revolves around his silence. For next, we will pierce deeper into the lens of cold realism and how seeing the world without desire transforms your vision into power. You think you see the world clearly, but you don't. You see what you want to see. You see through the lens of desire, that sweet, blinding fog that turns men into fools. Desire is the great distorter. It bends perception, reshapes memory, and paints illusions over truth. The lover ignores betrayal. The believer denies evidence. The ambitious man sees opportunity where there is only ruin, and all call their blindness hope. But those who rise, truly rise, learn to strip the world of its disguises. They see it not as it should be, but as it is, cold, flawed, transactional. A stage of self-interest where every smile conceals an agenda. You might find this cruel, but cruelty lies in delusion, not in truth. The realist suffers once, when he sees. The dreamer suffers endlessly, when his fantasies collapse. Look back to the court of princes. The clever ruler never mistook loyalty for love. He understood that men serve only as long as it benefits them, so he rewarded wisely, punished decisively, and trusted no promise that wasn't sealed by necessity. This was not cynicism, it was survival. Even today, the same principle governs every human arena. The office, the relationship, the friendship, all are kingdoms of interest disguised as affection. People swear allegiance to you not because of who you are, but because of what you provide. Remove the benefit, and you will watch their devotion evaporate like morning mist. And yet, this truth frees you. Once you stop demanding purity from others, you stop being disappointed by their corruption. You stop chasing loyalty and start cultivating leverage. You stop expecting fairness and start commanding advantage. Realism, then, is not despair, it is liberation. Ask yourself, how many times have you been deceived because you wanted to believe? You ignored the signs, the tone, the timing, because belief felt safer than truth. But belief is the enemy of power. The moment you believe too much, you stop observing. The moment you expect too much, you stop strategizing. The realist watches, not hopes. He listens not for words, but for motives. He studies silence more than speech. He accepts that men are not good or evil, only useful or dangerous at different times. Consider the diplomat who negotiates peace between enemies. He does not trust their words. He trusts their fear. He knows promises are made not from virtue, but from calculation. By appealing to self-interest, not morality, he achieves what idealists could never touch. For to see clearly is to speak the language of power, the only language that reality obeys. You might resist this. You might cling to the comfort of idealism. But tell me, where has it led you? How many times have you placed faith in someone's potential rather than their pattern? How often have you fallen for charm instead of character? You suffer not because men deceive, but because you refuse to see them as they are. The realist feels no hatred for this condition. He simply adapts. He plays the game of masks without forgetting it is a game. He gives loyalty where it serves him, affection where it strengthens his influence, and mercy only when it multiplies respect. His morality is not written in scripture, but in outcome. Cold realism is not the absence of heart. It is the discipline to keep the heart silent when strategy speaks. It is to recognize manipulation not as evil, but as the natural movement of survival. Every creature manipulates. The snake with its stillness, the lion with its roar, the man with his charm. Only the blind call it wicked. The wise call it necessary. To see the world without desire is to see it without distortion. You begin to notice patterns, predictable, repetitive, almost mechanical. You realize people do not change, only their circumstances do. You stop asking, why would they do this? And start asking, what do they gain from this? That question alone separates the prey from the predator, and once you start asking it, the fog begins to clear. The faces around you become maps of motive, the complements, tools, the promises, currency, and you, at last, become a player instead of a pawn. So, strip away your illusions. Doubt what flatters you. Observe what repels you. Do not seek beauty in truth, seek usefulness in it. For only when you abandon the comfort of your illusions can you begin to see the architecture of power itself. And once your eyes adjust to that cold light, you will never look at human nature the same way again. Next, we will explore the emotional economy and why power always flows toward those who care the least. Power is not always taken by strength. Often, it is given, quietly, invisibly, to the one who seems to need it least. Human beings are emotional merchants. Every conversation, every gesture, every connection is a trade of feeling. One person gives attention, another withholds it. One invests care, the other collects interest. And as in any market, the one who invests more becomes the one with less control. You have felt this, though perhaps you never named it. You cared too much, too soon, and suddenly, the balance shifted. You waited for replies, explanations, approval. You called it affection, but it was dependency in disguise, and the other. They sensed it, not consciously, but instinctively, and began to lead the dance. The law is simple: the less you care, the more others must care in your place. This is the emotional economy, and it governs every human bond more absolutely than love, logic, or morality. Consider the court of kings. The sovereign who reveals affection to a servant becomes hostage to that servant's loyalty. If the ruler praises too freely, he invites manipulation. But when he withholds emotion, when his favor seems scarce and uncertain, his subjects work tirelessly to earn it. The value of his affection rises precisely because it is withheld. Scarcity makes everything precious, even emotion. The same rule applies in politics, in business, in romance. When your time, your attention, your reactions are easily available, they lose value. People treat them as air, necessary, but ignored. But when you ration them, when you become selective, others begin to chase what once was free. Ask yourself, who dominates a relationship? The one who waits, or the one who makes others wait? Who controls a negotiation? The one desperate to close the deal, or the one who can walk away? Who is admired more deeply? The one always present, or the one whose absence feels like a wound? To care less is not cruelty. It is strategy. It is understanding that emotion is currency, and that most people spend recklessly. They invest in people who cannot return their value, pour energy into causes that do not reward them, and confuse generosity with power. But generosity, without boundaries, invites exploitation. Look at Cleopatra. Her empire was not built with armies, but with emotional control. She gave affection sparingly, enough to intoxicate, never enough to satisfy. Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, both conquerors of nations, became her servants not through force, but through desire unfulfilled. She ruled them by giving less than they wanted, and exactly as much as she needed. That is emotional mastery. Modern power operates no differently. The executive who remains unreadable in meetings commands attention. The influencer who rarely speaks becomes a mystery others obsess over. The leader who withholds praise drives subordinates to perform beyond reason. Indifference, when disciplined and deliberate, becomes a form of control. But beware. Indifference without purpose is emptiness, not strength. The art lies not in refusing to feel, but in deciding where your feelings are best spent. The wise man invests emotion as a strategist invests gold. Never in what cannot return more power. And so, emotional detachment is not the absence of care, it is the redirection of it. You care deeply, but selectively. You give affection as a test, not a gift. You show interest to gather information, not to surrender control. Even love, at its purest, is most enduring when balanced with restraint. There is a moment, subtle yet decisive, when the balance of care shifts. When one person begins to need reassurance, and the other realizes they can grant or withhold it. From that instant, the hierarchy is established. One becomes the ruler of attention, the other the ruled. In every sphere of life, people worship those who seem unshaken by attachment. They project power onto those who appear self-contained. Because most crave validation, they are drawn irresistibly to those who do not. The unbothered become magnetic precisely because they are rare. You may think detachment drives people away. It does not. It draws them nearer, because it creates mystery, uncertainty, and longing. Humans are addicted to emotional risk. They cannot resist the one who could give everything, but chooses not to. The emotional economy rewards those who ration affection and punishes those who overspend it. When you care less, you force others to compensate. When you withhold response, they chase reaction. When you remain calm, they seek to disturb your stillness, to prove they matter. And in that chase, they submit to your rhythm. To master this economy, you must train your emotions as a ruler trains an army, disciplined, obedient, and ready to act only on command. You do not suppress feeling, you command it. You do not become stone, you become steel, unmoved by pressure, yet capable of cutting through illusion. So remember, this power is not held by those who feel the most, but by those who show the least. In every relationship, influence flows toward composure, not confession. And when you finally understand that every bond is a transaction of emotion, you will stop seeking balance and start setting the price. Now, let us move deeper into the art of strategic withdrawal and how stepping back can make others move at your command. There are moments when retreat is not weakness, but strategy. When silence speaks louder than argument. When absence commands more power than presence. You've been taught to persist, to fight for attention, to chase what slips away. But those who understand power know the opposite. When you pull back, you make the world lean forward. Men lose control not because they lack strength, but because they cannot bear to withdraw. They cling, they over-explain. They beg to be understood. And in doing so, they hand the other side the throne. To step back is to unsettle the balance of power. It is to let silence sharpen the edge of curiosity and fear. Think of the hunter. He does not chase the prey endlessly through the forest. He waits, still, calculating until the prey's own movement betrays it. Power works the same way. You do not win by motion, you win by control of rhythm. Consider Napoleon at Austerlitz. He feigned retreat, inviting his enemies to advance. Their pride blinded them, their eagerness exposed them. And in a single stroke, he crushed their illusion of dominance. Withdrawal, used with precision, becomes a trap that feeds on human impatience. You too can wield this power. In argument, step back and let silence weigh on the opponent. In negotiation, withdraw your offer and watch its value rise. In relationships, retreat when others expect pursuit, and feel the shift as desire grows in your absence. The world hungers for what it cannot have. You must learn to weaponize that hunger. Strategic withdrawal is not surrender. It is redirection. You remove your energy from where it is wasted and reposition it where it multiplies. This demands discipline, because the ego rebels. It wants to prove, to correct, to win. But the wise know victory often belongs not to the loudest voiced, but to the one who stops speaking first. Ask yourself, how many battles have you lost simply because you stayed too long? How many arguments have you fed with your need to be right? How many people have you chased into indifference because you could not endure the silence of distance? The ruler who cannot step away becomes a slave to reaction. The man who cannot stop fighting loses not to his enemy, but to his own restlessness. The woman who cannot detach from control becomes predictable, and predictability is the death of power. There is beauty in withdrawal, but it is a cold beauty, the beauty of the moon, distant yet commanding the tides. Those who master it are not passive, they are architects of tension. They understand that absence creates imagination, and imagination creates influence. Think of the lover who leaves without explanation, the one who disappears not in anger, but in composure. Their absence fills every room, every thought. Their silence becomes a mirror in which the other must confront their own dependence. That is the unseen force of power, to dominate without touch, to rule through vacancy. Psychologically, withdrawal triggers uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds obsession. When people cannot read you, they construct stories to fill the void. Each story pulls them deeper into your orbit. In the realm of influence, mystery is not built through words, but through restraint. Even in warfare, withdrawal shapes outcomes. The general who knows when to retreat preserves his army for future conquest. He yields ground not in defeat, but to draw the enemy into overreach. Likewise, in the battles of life, you must know when to step back from noise, emotion, or attachment, not because you've lost, but because you choose to strike later from a stronger position. To withdraw is to create pressure through distance. It leaves others suspended, uncertain whether they've won or lost your favor, and in that uncertainty you rule their thoughts. Control does not always require presence. Sometimes, the greatest influence comes from the echo of your absence, when your silence demands explanation, when your restraint commands pursuit. But beware, withdrawal must be deliberate, never emotional. If you retreat from fear, you lose authority. If you retreat with calm, you redefine it. Every step back must serve a greater design. Each silence must be intentional. Each absence must create tension. Remember, the desperate advance, the powerful pause. To hold yourself back when every impulse screams to act is the highest discipline of control. So, step away not to vanish, but to pull the strings from the shadows. Let others rush to fill the silence you leave behind. Their movement will reveal their intentions. Their noise will expose their weakness. And when they finally overextend, you will return. Not as a participant, but as the master of the game, because in the theater of power, the one who dares to disappear at will is the one who controls when and how the curtain falls. Next, we turn to fortune and fate, and how detachment allows you not to beg for luck, but to command it. You live in a world that worships control, yet bows to chaos. You plan, you prepare, you calculate, and still, life strikes from an angle you never expected. You call it bad luck. The wise call it fortune. And fortune, as every ruler learns, does not kneel to the anxious or the desperate. She belongs to the detached. The ancient world saw fortune as a goddess, wild, fickle, and cruel. She turned kings into beggars and beggars into kings, indifferent to merit or virtue. But there was one secret whispered among those who studied her nature. Fortune yields only to those who treat her with measured indifference. The more you chase her favor, the more she mocks you. The moment you stand calm in her storm, she hesitates. It is not arrogance that conquers uncertainty. It is composure. Detachment is the weapon of those who understand that chaos cannot be mastered by force, only by posture. You do not wrestle with the river. You shape your course around it. Look at history's great manipulators of fate. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he gambled everything on one move. His genius lay not in recklessness, it was in preparation. He had studied the tides, the loyalties, the hearts of men. So when the dice were cast, he was not begging for luck. He had already built its foundation. Fortune favors not the bold, but the composed. She bends to those who prepare without obsession, who risk without trembling. Detachment gives you this strength. It severs the link between outcome and emotion. When others panic in uncertainty, you remain still, observing. You become the eye of the storm, untouched, unmoved. And in that stillness, you see what the frantic never notice: patterns, opportunities, weakness. Ask yourself, how often has panic blinded you to strategy? How often has desperation made you move too soon, speak too much, reveal too clearly? When you cling to the illusion of control, you become predictable. But when you detach from the need for certainty, you become unreadable, and what cannot be read cannot be defeated. Life will always be uncertain. The market collapses, alliances crumble, lovers betray. You cannot escape unpredictability, but you can command your stance within it. This is the art of ruling fortune, not to resist her chaos, but to anticipate it, to prepare so thoroughly that you can afford to remain calm when others drown in fear. The mind ruled by emotion fights against what is. The detached mind adapts to what comes. This difference decides who thrives and who collapses when fate turns her wheel. Consider the gambler who wins once and believes himself favored. He raises the stakes, intoxicated by success, and fortune, smiling, strips him bare. Contrast him with the strategist who plays with cold precision, who sees each win as temporary, each loss as information. He plays not for luck, but for leverage. In the end, the goddess tires of the reckless and follows the one who never chased her at all. This is why detachment is not passivity. It is dominance over emotion in the face of uncertainty. The detached person does not hope, he positions. He does not beg for outcomes. He builds conditions where outcomes favor him naturally. He does not curse fate, he bends probability through discipline. Every empire falls for the same reason: intoxication with success. Victory blinds the mind, dulls the senses, and makes rulers believe fortune has chosen them. But fortune has no favorites. She visits those who remain alert when all others celebrate, cautious when others sleep. Detachment keeps you awake in the comfort of triumph and steady in the despair of loss. It makes you both gambler and game master, both player and board. To live detached is to understand that everything you gain is temporary and everything you lose is replaceable. Once you accept that, you act with a terrifying kind of freedom. You stop fearing failure because it cannot enslave you. You stop worshipping success because it cannot seduce you. And in that moment, fortune's power over you ends. The masses pray for luck. The powerful prepare for chance. The wise build systems so that even when fortune turns her face, they stand untouched. For when you detach from outcome, you do not avoid uncertainty, you rule within it. Ask yourself now, are you the one fortune toys with, or the one she secretly obeys? Your answer depends on your ability to stand unmoved while others tremble. To plan like a god, act like a human, and accept both ruin and triumph with the same expression. Because once you master detachment, even fortune becomes predictable. Next, we turn to human puppetry, and how the attachments of others become the strings through which you move the world. Every man is tied to something, a desire, a fear, a secret need that rules him more than any king could. You will never understand true power until you learn to see these invisible strings. They are not made of rope or iron, but of emotion. And those who can see them can move people without ever raising their voice. Look around you. Every crowd, every court, every empire is held together by these threads. A ruler does not command through authority alone. He governs through attachment. He discovers what his subjects cling to, what they fear to lose, and then he guards or threatens it as he pleases. Men call this manipulation. I call it understanding human nature. Tell me, what binds you? Is it approval, love, money, or perhaps the illusion of control over your own destiny? Whatever it is, someone could use it against you. And they probably already have. Detachment shields you from this, but it also grants you the vision to see how others remain chained. Once you stop craving, you begin to perceive craving everywhere. You begin to notice how easily men trade integrity for comfort, loyalty for validation, courage for the warmth of belonging. Consider the courtiers of Renaissance Florence. They swore loyalty to their masters, but only because those masters fed their vanity, their greed, their ambitions. A prince who understood this could rule not by force, but by knowledge of his servants' hidden weaknesses. One man's ambition for recognition, another's thirst for pleasure, a third's need for safety. Each became a string to be plucked at will. The wise ruler did not punish rebellion, he redirected desire. Modern rulers are no different. The politician who whispers what people wish to hear is not serving them. He is playing their attachments like an instrument. The marketer who sells you a product does not sell the item itself. He sells the feeling of significance it promises. The lover who keeps you guessing does not hold you with affection, but with uncertainty, which your attachment transforms into obsession. The art of human puppetry lies in this. You do not break people's attachments. You use them. You do not need to threaten a man who fears being alone. You simply make him believe you are his only refuge. You do not need to argue with the proud. You feed their pride until they dance for your approval. To rule others, you must speak to their emotions, not their logic. For logic resists, emotion obeys. Most people believe they act from reason. They are wrong. They act from need, and reason arrives afterward. A servant, crafting noble excuses for emotional choices. Learn to trace those needs back to their root, and you will see the structure of their mind more clearly than they do. Power begins where self-awareness ends. The unaware man believes his feelings are his own. The aware man knows they were planted by culture, by fear, by others cleverer than him. And the detached man, he plants them in others. He becomes the gardener of desire. Imagine you are negotiating with someone who prides themselves on being fair. Challenge that pride gently. Say, I trust you'll make the just decision. Now you've placed a leash around their ego. They must act fairly, not because of principle, but because you've made it part of their identity. You've turned their attachment to self-image into a cage, or think of a rival obsessed with winning. Praise them as a great competitor, one who never backs down. In that single compliment, you plant the seed of predictability. They will take risks just to preserve that image. And you, calm, detached, observant, will already know their next move. People often fear manipulation. But manipulation is not evil. It is the natural order of human behavior. We are all manipulating all the time. The only question is, are you aware of it, or are you the one being moved? To master this art, you must first strip yourself of your own attachments. Only the free can pull strings without being tangled in them. You cannot control others while something still controls you. Once detached, your vision sharpens. You begin to notice the small tremors in people's voices, the flicker of need in their eyes, the desperate tone of those who beg to be seen. And then, you stop speaking to their words and start speaking to their hunger. You offer comfort, praise, recognition, not from sincerity, but from strategy. You make others feel safe in your shadow until they forget they ever had a life outside of it. This is not cruelty. It is mastery. Those who cannot guide others' attachments will forever be enslaved by their own. Remember this, every human heart is a puppet waiting for the right strings. The question is not whether you will pull them, but whether you will realize when someone is pulling yours, because the next stage of power is not merely seeing others' attachments. It is breaking free from your need to control them. And that, my friend, is where the throne of silence begins to rise. Power does not always roar. Sometimes it sits quietly, untouched, unshaken, and unseen. The highest throne is not built on gold, armies, or fame. It is built within, and few will ever sit upon it. You see, most people chase control of others. They want obedience, respect, admiration. They confuse dominance with mastery. But the man who truly rules is the one who cannot be ruled, not by others, not by fortune, not even by himself. It is the silent throne power through emotional independence. Ask yourself, how much of your life is dictated by the moods of others? How often do you bend your actions to avoid displeasure, to earn validation, to preserve comfort? The weak man changes with the wind. The powerful man is the wind. He does not react to the world reacts to him. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled not only an empire but his own mind. While surrounded by wars, betrayals, and death, he wrote quietly of stillness, of control, of balance. He could lose everything yet remain unbroken because his kingdom was internal. No enemy could breach it. No fortune could seduce it. This is not apathy. It is sovereignty of the spirit. Emotional independence is the final test of detachment. It is not the rejection of feeling, but the refusal to be enslaved by it. When anger comes, you observe it. When fear rises, you study it. When desire burns, you harness it, but never kneel before it. You begin to use emotions as tools rather than chains. And the moment you do, others lose their grip on you. Most manipulation fails on the emotionally independent. Why? Because manipulation feeds on reaction. If you do not react, it starves. Flattery cannot seduce you if you no longer hunger for praise. Threats cannot move you if you no longer fear loss. Disapproval cannot wound you if your worth is not built on another's gaze. That is how you become untouchable. You cease to play the emotional games of the world, and in doing so, you win them. There is a kind of power that comes from silence. When you speak rarely, each word becomes a blade. When you show little, every gesture carries weight. People project onto silence their own fears, their own desires. And in that projection, they reveal themselves to you. Your stillness becomes their mirror, and their secrets surface without you asking. Think of a ruler in his court. He listens while others argue, flatter, and boast. They exhaust themselves trying to impress him. He says little, yet his presence commands the room. His restraint makes others uneasy, because silence is power's purest language. But make no mistake, this independence does not come cheaply. You must sacrifice comfort. You must detach from the warmth of approval and the sweetness of being understood. You must become comfortable with solitude, for true power often isolates. Most cannot bear it. They seek connection as an escape from their own unrest. They confuse noise with meaning, attention with importance. The emotionally independent, however, walk through solitude as through a garden. Alone, but not lonely. When you master your inner state, you master timing. You do not rush to speak when provoked, nor act when uncertain. You wait, and let others reveal their impatience. The world mistakes stillness for weakness, but it is the most dangerous kind of strength, because the man who can wait controls not only himself but the outcome. Do you know why tyrants fear philosophers? Not because philosophers lead armies, but because they cannot be bribed, flattered, or intimidated. You cannot enslave a man who desires nothing you can offer. That is the apex of power, to live in the world, yet remain beyond its reach. Every empire collapses when its ruler becomes emotional. History remembers countless men who lost kingdoms because they could not rule their own hearts. Jealousy, pride, rage, love. Each emotion, when uncontrolled, is a sword turned inward. But the man who governs his emotions governs destiny itself. So when the world tests you, when people provoke, betray, or tempt, see it not as chaos, but as training. Each test is a reminder of your throne. Sit upon it unmoved. Watch the noise pass beneath you. Let others drown in the storm of their reactions, while you remain the calm sea that reflects the heavens. You will know you have reached the silent throne when no victory excites you, no insult disturbs you, and no loss defines you. Then, and only then, will the world begin to move in rhythm with your stillness, because the final form of power is not domination. It is composure. It is the quiet certainty that nothing, not man, not fortune, not even fate, can touch the kingdom you've built within. And when you reach that point, you will realize you no longer need the crown. The crown needs you. Power is never taken by force. It is taken by understanding. The moment you see what drives people, their fears, their vanity, their hunger, you no longer need to command them. They command themselves for you. The most effective ruler does not shout. He whispers. He plants ideas like seeds and lets others believe they were born from their own minds. That is the purest form of control, unseen, unquestioned, and absolute. Ask yourself, are you the one pulling the strings or the one dancing to another's rhythm? The difference lies in awareness. Those who understand human nature rule it. Those who ignore it are ruled by it. If this truth stirs something within you, let it. Comment your thoughts below. I want to know which string of power you intend to pull next. Subscribe so you never miss another lesson in strategy and control. And share this video, because influence, like power itself, grows only when it moves through others.